Hello everyone, Dr. Alan Mandell here. Welcome back to my channel, Science of Healing. What if the food you have been told is the best natural inflammation fighter is not actually the one that works fastest for seniors? And what if the real solution is not a spice at all, but a simple food that most people overlook every single day? Many older adults tell me the same story. They are eating healthy. They are moving their bodies. Maybe they are even sprinkling turmeric on their meals because they have heard it fights inflammation. Yet they still wake up with stiff joints, lingering aches, swollen hands, or that slow, heavy feeling in their body that makes everything harder. What is going on? Here is what is really happening inside your body. As you move through your later years, your immune system becomes more reactive. Your liver takes on more metabolic stress and your cells produce more inflammatory signals by default. Scientists sometimes call this state inflammatory aging. It is subtle, it builds quietly, and it makes everything from weight loss to energy production much harder than it needs to be. Turmeric has a well-known reputation, but its active compound curcumin has limited absorption in the human body, and it targets only a narrow set of inflammatory pathways. This means that many seniors who depend on turmeric alone are still dealing with ongoing inflammation because the deeper mechanisms driving their symptoms remain switched on. That is why today's topic is so important. There is one food that has been shown in multiple research studies to activate your body's own internal inflammation control system. It works faster, reaches deeper, and supports the root causes of inflammation, not just the symptoms. And the surprising part is that most people do not think of this food as a therapeutic tool at all. In this talk, I will show you why this one food outperforms turmeric in several critical pathways. You will learn how it works inside your cells, how it supports your metabolism, and how seniors can use it to restore energy, mobility, and long-term health. And most importantly, you will learn practical steps you can begin using today to support a calmer, stronger, more resilient body from the inside out. Before we move forward, let me know about you. What is your name? How old are you? What medical problem you are dealing with? And where are you watched from? Because I read every comment. And remember this, when you understand the root cause, you gain the power to change the outcome. When most people compare turmeric with other anti-inflammatory foods, they look at surface level effects. But here is what is really going on inside your body. When you compare turmeric's curcumin to the compound found in this overlooked food, curcumin behaves more like a topical solution. It dampens inflammation in limited pathways, but it does not reach deeply into the systems that drive chronic inflammation in seniors. The compound inside this food works very differently. Think of it as a master control switch that influences multiple layers of cellular defense all at once. Let me explain this with a simple analogy. Imagine inflammation as a fire burning inside a large building. Curcumin is like walking in with a small bucket of water. You can cool off one corner, but the rest of the building is still smoldering. The compound in this food behaves more like activating the sprinkler system. Instead of trying to put out flames one by one, it turns on your entire internal defense network. Suddenly, the whole building begins to cool down at the same time. That is the difference in strength we are talking about. What the research shows is compelling. In multiple laboratory studies, this compound strongly suppresses inflammatory genes that curcumin barely touches. It lowers the production of cytokines such as interleukin-6, interleukin-1 beta, and tumor necrosis factor alpha, which are the same molecules responsible for morning stiffness, joint swelling, slow recovery, and the heavy, fatigued feeling many seniors experience. In studies of metabolic stress, especially in older animals or those with insulin resistance, this compound reduced liver inflammation far more effectively than curcumin. That matters because the liver plays a major role in controlling inflammatory signals throughout the body. Here is what this means in practical terms. As you age, inflammation does not just happen in one spot. It stems from your immune cells, your liver, your fat tissue, and even your gut. Because of this, you need something that reaches those deeper layers, not just something that touches symptoms on the surface. The food we are focusing on today delivers that depth. It helps quiet inflammation from the inside out in a way that turmeric simply cannot match by itself. This is especially important for seniors because your body absorbs and uses nutrients differently than it did in younger years. Limited curcumin absorption becomes even more of a barrier, but the compound in this food is naturally activated inside your cells. You do not need high doses. You do not need special formulations. You simply need the right preparation and the right frequency, which we will cover in upcoming sections. There's another reason this matters. Chronic inflammation affects everything from metabolism to brain function to immune aging. When you lower inflammation at the root, you support better insulin control, clearer thinking, steadier energy, and improved mobility. Seniors often tell me they feel younger, lighter, and more capable when chronic inflammation finally comes down. If this is helpful so far, consider subscribing. I share science-based explanations like this every day to help you support your health naturally. The food we have been building toward is broccoli, along with its cruciferous relatives. The compound responsible for its powerful effects is sulforaphane, a natural molecule formed when you chew or lightly cook these vegetables. Sulforaphane is one of the most studied anti-inflammatory compounds in nutritional science, and what researchers have uncovered is remarkable for seniors who struggle with chronic lingering inflammation. Here is what is really going on inside your body when you eat broccoli. The moment sulforaphane is formed, it activates a master pathway called NRF2. Think of NRF2 as your internal command center for cellular protection. When it switches on, dozens of your own antioxidant and detoxification enzymes rise in activity. These are enzymes your body produces on its own, not ones you have to consume from supplements or spices. Sulforaphane is one of the strongest known natural triggers of this system. Curcumin does not activate NRF2 nearly as powerfully or consistently. What the research shows is that sulforaphane reduces inflammatory signaling at nearly every stage of the process. It slows the activation of NF-kappa B, which is one of the main biological switches responsible for chronic inflammation in aging. When NF-kappa B stays on, your cells keep producing pro-inflammatory cytokines day after day. When sulforaphane enters the picture, that switch begins to quiet. Several studies have demonstrated lower levels of interleukin-6 tumor necrosis factor alpha and interleukin-1 beta after sulforaphane exposure. These are the very cytokines that drive joint stiffness, slow healing, metabolic sluggishness, and the overall sense of inflammation many seniors describe. Researchers have also observed another important effect. Sulforaphane helps rebalance immune cells. As adults move into their later years, immune cells tend to become more reactive, over-responding to minor triggers and creating ongoing inflammation. Sulforaphane helps shift immune cells into a more regulated state. It encourages the type of immune activity associated with healing rather than irritation. This is one reason many seniors report not only less joint discomfort, but also clearer thinking and better energy when they regularly eat cruciferous vegetables. One of the most compelling findings involves metabolic inflammation. In studies of older subjects and models with insulin resistance, cellular reduced inflammatory activity inside the liver, which is a major source of whole body inflammation. When the liver becomes stressed, inflammation rises everywhere by calming inflammation at the liver level. Sulforaphane creates a ripple effect that benefits the entire body. This matters for seniors because inflammation does not show up only in one place. It is systemic. And sulforaphane is one of the few natural compounds that addresses inflammation from multiple angles at the same time. It works inside your immune system, your liver, your metabolic tissues, and even your gut. Broccoli is not trendy, it is not exotic, but at the cellular level, it behaves like a powerful anti-inflammatory agent your body already knows how to use. In the next section, we will break down exactly how sulforaphane activates your internal antioxidant defense system and why this becomes increasingly important as you age. Here is what becomes even more fascinating when we look deeper inside the body. Sulforaphane does more than simply reduce inflammatory markers. It activates a built-in system your body relies on for long-term protection. This system is called the NRF2 antioxidant pathway, and it controls how your cells respond to stress, aging, and inflammation. When NRF2 stays low, inflammation rises easily. When NRF2 is activated, your cells become far more resilient. Let me explain this with a simple picture you can visualize. Imagine every cell in your body has a control panel. When oxidative stress or inflammation appears, you want that control panel to turn on the internal repair crew automatically. In younger years, this happens quickly. As you age, that internal crew becomes slower, less organized, and less responsive. Sulforaphane steps in like a supervisor who reactivates the entire repair team. It tells your cells, wake up, strengthen your defenses, and calm the inflammatory response. A recent study published in 2023 highlighted this exact effect. Researchers observed that sulforaphane significantly increased the expression of the body's own antioxidant enzymes, including glutathione-related enzymes and He oxygenase 1. These enzymes are essential for neutralizing oxidative stress, which is one of the main triggers of chronic inflammation in older adults. The same study found that sulforaphane reduced inflammatory signaling in immune cells, keeping them from becoming overly reactive. Another investigation published recently emphasized how sulforaphane influences two major inflammatory switches at once. It boosts NRF2 while lowering NF-kappa B. This dual action is rare in natural compounds. Most anti-inflammatory foods target just one pathway. Sulforaphane supports both sides of the balance. It lifts your protective system while calming the pro-inflammatory system. What the researchers concluded is important. Sulforaphane does not work like a bandage. It works like a long-term recalibration tool. Adults who consumed cruciferous vegetables regularly showed improved inflammatory balance, better metabolic markers, and lower oxidative stress over time. This aligns perfectly with what clinicians see in practice, especially with seniors who add these foods into weekly routines. This is why broccoli stands out. It is not only a source of antioxidants, it is a trigger for your body to produce its own antioxidants. That distinction is critical. External antioxidants help for a moment. Internal antioxidants work continuously, quietly protecting your tissues, supporting your metabolism, and slowing the inflammatory changes associated with aging. Let me know. I read every single comment and I want to hear your results. And if you care about your health, or if you care about someone who's dealing with joint pain, brain fog, or chronic fatigue, hit that like button and subscribe to this channel because I put out videos like this every single week, breaking down the research so you don't have to understand why sulforaphane is so uniquely powerful for seniors. We need to look at how chronic inflammation forms in the first place. In your later years, inflammation is rarely caused by one single issue. It is usually a combination of subtle metabolic changes that accumulate over time. Your liver becomes more burdened, your insulin response becomes less efficient, your gut barrier weakens, and your immune system shifts into a more reactive state. These changes create a steady trickle of inflammatory signals that your body struggles to turn off. Here is what is really going on inside your body. When your liver is under metabolic stress, it releases inflammatory cytokines into the bloodstream. When your fat cells hold excess stored energy, they begin producing their own inflammatory molecules. When your gut lining becomes compromised, even slightly immune cells start firing more often. These three sources together create a cycle that keeps inflammation elevated day and night. Let me explain this with a simple analogy. Imagine your body as a neighborhood. The liver is the main electrical station. Fat tissue is the apartment complex, and the gut is the front gate. If the electrical station overloads, lights flicker across the entire neighborhood. If the apartment complex becomes crowded, noise increases and everyone becomes stressed. If the front gate stays open, strangers wander in and alarms go off. Each problem alone creates stress, but when all three occur together, the entire neighborhood becomes chaotic. Sulforaphane steps in at every level of this neighborhood. It reduces liver stress by lowering oxidative load, which helps the liver signal less inflammation. It influences fat cells, encouraging them to produce fewer inflammatory molecules. And it supports gut integrity by increasing the body's own antioxidant defenses, which helps your intestinal lining stay stronger and calmer. What the research highlights is that sulforaphane targets these systemic sources of inflammation much more effectively than curcumin. Curcumin mostly works inside immune cells. Sulforaphane works in immune cells, liver cells, endothelial cells, and even metabolic tissues. That is why many seniors notice broader improvements when they add broccoli and other cruciferous vegetables consistently. In practical everyday terms, this means something important. When you quiet inflammation at its sources, everything downstream improves. Seniors often describe better mobility, easier weight management, fewer energy crashes, and clearer mental sharpness. These are not isolated benefits. They are the natural result of reducing the chronic inflammatory load that builds up over years. In the upcoming section, we will look at how to prepare and use broccoli in ways that maximize sulforaphane formation. Small changes in how you chop, chew, and cook this vegetable can dramatically increase its anti-inflammatory potential. Now that we understand how sulforaphane works at a cellular and systemic level, let's focus on how seniors can use it to address metabolic inflammation, which is a major driver of age-related health decline. Metabolic inflammation arises when your body's fat tissue, liver, and even muscle start producing chronic low-level inflammatory signals. This is often linked to insulin resistance, excess weight, or poor diet over decades. Left unchecked, it fuels joint pain, fatigue, and higher risk of chronic disease. Here is what is really going on inside your body. Fat cells, especially those in the abdomen, act like tiny factories producing inflammatory molecules such as interleukin-6 and tumor necrosis factor alpha. The liver, when stressed, adds its own inflammatory output. These signals travel through your bloodstream and prime your immune cells to stay on even when no real threat exists. The result is a chronic state of smoldering inflammation that subtly damages tissues, slows metabolism, and makes recovery from exercise or stress more difficult. Let me explain this with a simple analogy. Imagine your body is a factory, and each organ is a machine. Fat cells are producing smoke. The liver is overheating, and immune cells are sounding alarms continuously. Normally, maintenance crews would keep the factory running smoothly, but with age and metabolic stress, the crew is overwhelmed. Sulforaphane is like sending in a team of expert engineers who repair machinery, calm the alarms, and reduce the smoke, allowing the entire factory to run more efficiently. Research confirms that sulforaphane reduces inflammatory signaling in liver tissue and adipose tissue, even in models of insulin resistance and obesity. This means your liver can detoxify more effectively. Your fat cells stop producing as many inflammatory molecules, and your immune system becomes less reactive. For seniors, this translates into better energy, improved metabolism, and reduced chronic discomfort. Behaviorally, the takeaway is clear. Consistent intake of broccoli and cruciferous vegetables acts as a systemic anti-inflammatory strategy. 3 to 5 servings per week can create a meaningful reduction in chronic metabolic inflammation over time. Pairing this with a diet that supports stable blood sugar, good sleep, and regular movement amplifies the benefits because it reduces other triggers that activate inflammatory pathways. If you are ready to implement this, think of it as building a layered defense. Broccoli addresses the root of inflammation, and when combined with healthy lifestyle habits, it becomes a powerful natural tool for seniors to restore vitality and resilience. In the next section, we will dive into practical strategies for preparing and consuming broccoli so you maximize sulforane's anti-inflammatory potential every day. So, how do you take this powerful anti-inflammatory compound from broccoli and make it work for you every day? The key lies in preparation, timing, and consistency. Sulforaphane is not automatically active in raw broccoli. It exists initially as a precursor called glucoraphanin. When the vegetable is chopped, chewed, or lightly steamed, an enzyme called myroinase converts glucoraphanin into sulforaphane, the molecule that activates your body's internal defense systems. Here is what is really going on inside your body. When you eat broccoli that has been prepared correctly, sulforaphane enters your system and starts activating NRF2, calming NF-kappa B and regulating immune cells. If you overcook broccoli, the myosinase enzyme is destroyed, reducing sulforaphane formation. That is why light steaming or eating raw is more effective. Even a short 5-minute steam is often ideal. Let me explain this with a simple analogy. Think of glucoraphanin as a locked toolbox. Myrosinase is the key. Chop, chew, or lightly cook, and the key turns opening the toolbox so the sulforaphane can spring into action. Without the key, much of the potential is lost, and your cells do not receive the full anti-inflammatory benefit. For practical application, aim for at least 3 to 4 servings of cruciferous vegetables per week. 1 cup of chopped broccoli, a handful of broccoli sprouts, or a mix of Brussels sprouts, cabbage, and kale will suffice. If you want to increase potency, lightly chop or crush the vegetables before cooking or combine raw sprouts with lightly steamed floret. Pairing with a small amount of healthy fat like olive oil can help with nutrient absorption and overall cellular uptake. Another tip is to support your gut bacteria, which play a role in converting glucoraphanin to sulforaphane. Include prebiotic foods such as onions, garlic, or leeks to encourage these microbes. The stronger your gut ecosystem, the more efficiently sulforaphane can form and act in your body. Finally, consistency matters more than quantity in a single meal. Regular intake ensures that your internal antioxidant and immune systems are activated frequently, keeping chronic inflammation low over time. Seniors often notice subtle but meaningful improvements in joint comfort, energy, and mental clarity when this becomes a routine. If you are ready to make this change, start by adding broccoli or another cruciferous vegetable to 3 meals this week. Observe how your body responds. The improvements may be gradual, but they are cumulative and deeply restorative. In the next section, we will wrap up with a clear summary of the physiological insights and practical takeaways. To summarize, chronic inflammation is one of the most important underlying factors affecting seniors' energy, mobility, metabolism, and long-term health. Relying on turmeric alone may help to a degree, but it often does not reach the deeper pathways driving inflammation at the cellular and systemic level. Broccoli and other cruciferous vegetables, thanks to their sulforaphane content, offer a more potent, research-backed solution. Sulforaphane activates NRF2, the body's master antioxidant system, reduces NF-kappa B activity, rebalances immune cells, and lowers inflammatory signals from the liver and fat tissue. These mechanisms work together to calm chronic inflammation, improve metabolic efficiency, and support overall cellular resilience. For seniors, the practical takeaway is simple. 3 to 5 servings of cruciferous vegetables per week, prepared correctly, can significantly support your body's natural anti-inflammatory defenses. Light steaming, chopping, or consuming sprouts ensures maximum sulforaphane formation, and pairing with healthy fats and prebiotic foods enhances absorption and effectiveness. Here is your challenge. Try adding broccoli or another cruciferous vegetable to at least 3 meals this week. Pay attention to how your joints feel, how your energy shifts, and whether you notice reduced stiffness or improved clarity. Small, consistent changes like this build over time and can have profound effects on aging, metabolism, and vitality. If this added value, like the video and subscribe to join others who are optimizing their health naturally using science-backed food-based strategies that support long-term well-being.